Sarah had always believed her marriage to Ethan was perfect. They had been together for almost 10 years, and although life had its ups and downs, she thought they had faced every challenge together. Ethan was dependable, kind, and deeply committed, or so she thought. However, over time, Sarah found herself drawn to someone else, her co-worker, Alex. It started innocently with casual conversations during coffee breaks and occasional lunches together. Alex was charming and attentive, offering her the excitement and attention she hadn't realized she needed. What began as light-hearted chats turned into lingering glances and secret texts. One night, after weeks of feeling guilty, Sarah crossed a line she couldn't undo. Ethan had been working late, and Alex invited her over. They laughed, drank wine, and eventually gave in to the tension that had been building between them. As Sarah drove home that night, guilt gnawed at her, but she convinced herself it was a one-time mistake. Ethan, however, was not blind to the changes in Sarah. He noticed her distracted behavior, the extra care she took with her appearance, and how she guarded her phone. Although he never confronted her, his silence spoke volumes. One day, Sarah came home to a quiet house. The bed was neatly made, the dishes were put away, and Ethan's favorite chair was empty. On the kitchen counter, she found his wedding ring, shining softly under the light, along with a note written in Ethan's careful handwriting. "I hope you find what you're looking for. Take care of yourself." Panic surged through Sarah as she searched the house, calling his name. His clothes, toiletries, and even the framed photos of their wedding were gone. It was as if he had disappeared overnight. Sarah tried calling him, but his number had been disconnected. She reached out to friends and family, but no one had seen or heard from him. Days turned into weeks, and the reality of Ethan's absence set in. Alone in the empty house, Sarah was left to face her decisions. She replayed every moment of their marriage, every choice that had led to this point. The weight of what she had lost and the pain she had caused felt heavy. Ethan's disappearance wasn't just a physical absence. It was a reminder of the trust she had broken and the love she had taken for granted. Sarah realized too late that sometimes the consequences of betrayal aren't loud or dramatic. They're silent, final, and irreversible. As the weeks turned into months, Sarah fell into a routine that felt empty without Ethan. Every corner of the house reminded her of the life they had shared. She couldn't escape the questions that haunted her. Where had he gone? Was he okay? Would he ever forgive her? At first, she tried to distract herself with work, throwing herself into projects and volunteering for overtime. Alex, sensing her withdrawal, reached out to her, but she brushed him off. The thrill of their affair had long faded, replaced by overwhelming regret. Whatever excitement she had once felt was no longer worth the price she had paid. One evening, Sarah decided to clean out their bedroom closet. It was an attempt to do something productive and distract herself from the emptiness she felt. As she sifted through old boxes, she found a small leather-bound journal tucked behind a row of Ethan's neatly folded shirts. Her heart raced as she opened it, immediately recognizing his handwriting. The journal wasn't a traditional diary. It was a collection of thoughts, observations, and memories. Flipping through the pages, Sarah found entries dating back to the early days of their marriage. Ethan had written about their first anniversary, the road trips they had taken, and even the simple joys of cooking dinner together. But as she reached the more recent entries, the tone changed. One entry read, "I don't know who she is anymore. I see her smiling at her phone, laughing at jokes I'll never hear. I feel like a stranger in my own home." Another entry was even more heartbreaking. "I love her, but I can't keep pretending I don't know. She deserves to be happy, even if it's not with me. Maybe leaving is the only way to set us both free." Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she read his words. He had known all along, yet he had stayed, hoping things might change. His decision to leave wasn't out of anger, but out of heartbreak. He had loved her enough to let her go. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She clutched the journal to her chest, replaying every moment of their time together. The realization hit her hard. Ethan had been her rock, her anchor, and she had let her own insecurities and restlessness drive her to betray him. In the months that followed, Sarah began to rebuild her life. She sought therapy to understand the choices she had made and the pain she had caused. She reached out to Ethan's family, hoping for any clue about his whereabouts, but they were as tight-lipped as he had been. It was clear Ethan didn't want to be found, at least not yet. One rainy afternoon, as Sarah sat by the window with a cup of tea, she received a letter in the mail. The handwriting on the envelope was unmistakable. It was Ethan's. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a single page. The note was brief but heartfelt. "I hope you're doing well. I needed time to heal, and I hope you found your own peace too. Maybe one day we can talk. Until then, take care of yourself. Sarah." Ethan. The letter brought a mix of emotions: relief, sadness, and a glimmer of hope. While she didn't know if they would ever truly reconcile, she was grateful for the chance to make amends, even if only in her heart. For now, all she could do was honor his wish for peace and continue her journey of self-discovery. After reading Ethan's letter, Sarah folded it carefully and placed it in the journal she had found months earlier. It became a ritual. Whenever she felt overwhelmed by guilt or longing, she would read his words, hoping to understand his perspective more deeply and find the strength to move forward. In the following months, Sarah's life shifted in subtle but profound ways. She left her job, unable to face the memories of her affair with Alex. Instead, she pursued a career in counseling, inspired by her therapy sessions. She wanted to help others navigate the complicated emotions and choices that could lead to broken relationships. Though she focused on her personal growth, the thought of Ethan was always there, lingering like a quiet shadow. She found herself wondering if he had found happiness, if he had moved on, or if he still thought about her as much as she thought about him. One day, nearly a year after Ethan had disappeared, Sarah was volunteering at a community event. She had spent the afternoon helping set up a food drive, chatting with other volunteers, and immersing herself in the work. As she packed up the last box of donations, she felt a presence behind her. Turning around, she froze. Ethan stood there, looking just as she remembered, but with a calmness she hadn't seen before. He smiled faintly, his eyes meeting hers with a mixture of warmth and caution. "Hi, Sarah," he said softly. She felt her breath catch, unsure of what to say. "Ethan, I didn't think I'd ever see you again," she replied. "I didn't think I'd come back," he admitted, "but I heard about this event and thought I might run into you." The two stood there for a moment, the air thick with unspoken words. Finally, Ethan gestured to a bench nearby. "Do you want to sit and talk?" "I'm so sorry." Ethan placed a hand on hers, a gesture of both comfort and closure. "I don't know what the future holds for us, Sarah, but I do know that I've forgiven you, for my own sake as much as yours." Her heart ached at his words, but she felt a sense of relief she hadn't known she needed. "Thank you," she whispered. They spent the rest of the afternoon talking, sharing stories of the past year and reflecting on what they had learned. When it was time to part ways, Ethan stood and looked at her one last time. "Take care of yourself, Sarah," he said. "Maybe we'll cross paths again someday." As she watched him walk away, Sarah felt a strange mix of sadness and hope. Their chapter as husband and wife had ended, but their story wasn't over. For now, she was content to take things one day at a time, carrying with her the lessons of love, loss, and forgiveness. As Ethan walked away, Sarah stayed on the bench for a while, letting the weight of their conversation settle. It wasn't the reconciliation she had once hoped for, but it was something just as valuable: closure and the possibility of a new beginning, however undefined. In the following weeks, Sarah found herself replaying their conversation in her mind. She appreciated the courage it must have taken for Ethan to face her. After everything that had happened, his forgiveness, though bittersweet, felt like a gift she didn't think she deserved. One evening, as Sarah was tidying up her small apartment, she came across the journal again. This time, she decided to add her own words. She wrote about her regrets, her growth, and her gratitude for the time they had shared. It became a habit. Writing down her thoughts and emotions helped her process the lingering pain and appreciate the lessons she had learned. Her career in counseling flourished, and she began to specialize in relationship therapy. She poured her heart into her work, helping couples navigate the complexities of love and trust. Each session reminded her of the importance of honesty and communication, lessons she wished she had embraced earlier in her marriage. One day, about 2 years after their meeting at the community event, Sarah received an unexpected message through social media. It was from Ethan. "Hi, Sarah. I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. I'm in town for a while and thought maybe we could catch up." Her heart raced as she read the message. It wasn't filled with promises or hidden meanings. It was simply an invitation to reconnect. After a moment of hesitation, she replied, "I'd like that. Let me know when you're free." They agreed to meet at a quiet cafe downtown. When Sarah walked in, she spotted Ethan sitting by the window, a cup of coffee in hand. He looked different, older perhaps, but more at peace. As they talked, the years seemed to melt away. They shared updates about their lives, their careers, and the paths they had taken since parting ways. There was no tension, no lingering bitterness. Just two people who had once shared a deep connection. Toward the end of their conversation, Ethan leaned forward slightly. "I've thought a lot about us, Sarah," he said. "I don't know where this will lead, but I'd like to spend more time together, if you're open to it." Sarah felt a lump in her throat. She had dreamed of this moment, but now that it was here, she realized how much they had both changed. "I'd like that too," she replied cautiously, "but let's take it slow. We're not the same people we used to be." Ethan nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. Slow sounds good. From that day forward, they began to rebuild something new. Not the marriage they had lost, but a friendship that could grow into something more. They took their time, allowing trust and understanding to develop naturally. Though the future was uncertain, Sarah felt hopeful for the first time in years. She and Ethan had been broken, but they were also stronger for it, together. They were learning that sometimes love doesn't have to follow the same path. It can find a new way forward, one step at a time.